Um, Welcome to our inclusive community engagement and planning group. This group is set up by Heather Jones, our Deputy Planning Director, to promote inclusive design and best practice. The recording and the presentation will be uploaded to our ICEPG webpage for wider sharing. Joining us today, we have Steve Dobson, workplace consultant from Overbury. Steve leads evidence-based workplace strategy, aligning business performance with people, space, and culture. He specializes in insight-led workspace transformation through the WISE framework. WISE stands for well-being, inclusion, space, and environment, helping organizations to define what their workplace needs to achieve and how to deliver it with measurable impact. Ollie Lewis, he's the Business Development Manager for Overbury, waving his hand there. Ollie is focused on generating new opportunities and strengthening client relationships to support the delivery of workplace fit-out and consultancy projects. He works closely with internal teams, including workspace consultancy, pre-construction and marketing to shape compelling client propositions, ensuring solutions align with occupier needs and marketing opportunities. We also have Sophie Lloyd today. She's the social value coordinator. Sophie is responsible for embedding social value and inclusion principles across life fit-out and refurbishment projects. Sophie works closely with project teams, clients, and supply chain partners to ensure that social value commitments such as diversity, inclusion, community engagement, and skills development are delivered in a meaningful way. So welcome to you all. We have some really enthusiastic officers in the room. I'm Bonnie Kwok, Business Development Manager, but also deputizing for Heather Jones on the ICE project. I'm going to ask Liz Davey to introduce herself.
Hello, yes, thank you. My name's Liz Davey and I work as a development officer in the economic development team at South Cambridgeshire District Council. So social values, skills and employment plans, etc. are all come under my role to follow up. So thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Tom Davies.
Well, hello everyone. I'm a senior urban designer in the Greater Cambridge Shared Planning. So it's a very large area really. So it covers Cambridge City and all the people that are living there, but also all the villages surrounding it in South Cambs. So it adds up to like about 300,000 people.
Amazing. And then we have Claire Gibbons.
Hi, I'm the Growth Manager with the Communities team at South Cambridgeshire District Council. My team works across our growth sites in the district, looking to deliver the very best quality community infrastructure and community development support. I also sit on the Social Values Steering Group, which is led by Homes England for the Northstowe development. So very keen to hear what you have to say today.
Thank you, Claire. I'm sure there will be lots of useful takeaways. Lillian Botang.
Hi everyone, I'm Lillian Watson. I also work with Greater Cambridge Shared Planning as an intern, and I work with Bonnie on youth engagement activities and public health activities as well. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Maxine Ross?
Yep. Hello. Yeah, I'm Maxine. I work with Bonnie in the Greater Cambridge Shared Planning Service. So I do some of the youth engagement support work and other admin support work for policy and the Built Natural Environment team.
Yep, why remit. And Holly White.
Good afternoon, my name is Holly White. I'm Programme Implementation Manager at Greater Cambridge Shared Planning. So I look at a large retrofit programme across the city, South Cambs and county, and I also manage our business operations team. Thanks.
Thank you. Shahida Montgomery.
Hi, my name is Shahida Montgomery. I am a planner with the Strategic Sites team, and on some of the schemes I work on, I work with the communities officers in delivering community infrastructure, such as allotments, playing fields, etc. So yeah, this is an area that I'm wanting to learn a bit further as well. So, thank you.
Yeah, so we will be doing a LinkedIn post after today's meeting to credit our speaker. And at this point, we have Mary Collins joining us. Mary, do you want to say hello?
Hello, sorry I'm a bit late. I just got distracted and then I forgot. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can I ask, Mary, can I ask you to switch on the camera because I'm going to take a screenshot, ask everyone to smile, and then we're going to put it on our social media. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Steve, the stage is all yours.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for your time. This came about, Bonnie and I met, and I think Ollie had met Bonnie before, but around a wellbeing event that the BCO had down in Cambridge. And off the back of that, it was a kind of introduction to talk about what we do, because it's an area where you guys get involved in the planning areas that you do. And we kind of follow on at the back end to turn those buildings into something a little bit more habitable. So we're just going to go through, I think we've sent across a presentation. We've got the highlights of that we're just going to go through to give a bit of background of who we are, what we do, and essentially what then comes out the back of it. So I'll share my screen, and then I think Ollie's going to lead us through exactly who we are and what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Bonnie, for the kind introduction and for inviting us in today. So my role at Overbury is I look after Cambridge and East Anglia and projects within that region. As Steve has alluded to, you guys get involved with the base build upfront work, looking at the planning of new builds coming in, and then Overbury and Morgan Lovell within our group will come in and do the tenant fit out, landlord fit out, and that's across commercial, office space, laboratory buildings and higher education. So we're part of the Morgan Sindall group, who are a £5 billion revenue group across the UK. And within fit out, we've got two arms of that. So you've got Overbury, who are more traditionally led, and Morgan Lovell, who will do full turnkey D&B. And within our region, we've merged both of those companies together. So we'll do full complete stage zero design all the way through to delivery, and also a traditional route of tender as well. So we're about 1.6 billion just in the fit out arm within that group. We've got Lovell and Muse, which is probably companies that you guys have come across from a housing and urban regeneration perspective. And then Morgan Sindall Construction as well, who do a lot of base build stuff across leisure, schools and commercial buildings as well. So we're a decentralised business, so we split our different teams off across the UK. So our region goes from Bedford all the way up to Stoke-on-Trent. We've got our Birmingham office at Fort Dunlop, where we're hosting from today. And then we've also got space over at Fora in Cambridge, looking after that section of our region. We've got 105 employees just within the central team, £110 million of turnover in 2025. But then we've also got 3 teams that are based in London. We've got a team that are based in Bracknell that will cover the central region, the southern region outside of that. And then we've got teams in Leeds, Manchester and Scotland as well. So covering the breadth of the UK for fit out. We've got a strong history within Cambridge. So AstraZeneca are a client that we've worked with since 2013. First project for them was the Da Vinci building over at Melbourne Science Park. And we've seen that massive growth that they've gone on within Cambridge all the way through to the DISC, which we were involved with fitting out the restaurant for them over COVID. We've recently done work with them as well on Hills Road for some of their city centre stuff. So as they continue to expand and to change their office offering within Cambridge, we hope to go on that journey with them. Breakthrough is a project that we're on site with at the moment, which I know that Bonnie and the team are involved with early doors, with community engagement aspects and getting schools involved with artwork in there. So I think the plan is to go back in September and get the kids back and show them, you know, from the early stages of planning involvement all the way through to a fitted article, what that looks like. But yeah, we've delivered £95 million worth of work now in Cambridge, and ARM is one that we've just handed over at Peterhouse. So Bonnie came along to an inclusive design talk that was, you know, a focus for ARM as a company that are now a big global company. How does the inclusive design work with them across their portfolio across the world? And it's very interesting to hear from them that you know, their focus in Cambridge is very different from their offices in America, especially with the changes that Trump has put in place, India, and how they have to navigate that globally. So yeah, that's sort of us within the Cambridge arena. In terms of services that we offer, so like I was saying, we've got a full D&B offering. So we've got an internal design team that takes stuff from stage 0 all through to delivery. Steve looks after our workplace consultancy, so that's looking at early doors engagement with occupiers, looking at how they want their new office to be, looking at utilisation studies, workplace culture. We've got furniture management in-house, and then our environmental offering, I'd say, is probably leading within our sector. We've got 19 environmental managers that just focus on looking at sustainable design, BREEAM, neighbours, well, and then we can carry that across into the fit out as well, depending on the client requirements.
I'm just going to jump in there. There's a lot of words and terminology we're using. So if anybody wants a bit of clarity on some of the terminology that we've spoken about there, then drop it in chat and we can answer that, just to clear that up for anyone that's not quite clear on it. But hopefully it all makes fairly straightforward sense at the moment. So yeah, before we get on to the exciting bit and the design, and we show you lots of pretty pictures. There we go. First one, Bonnie, turnkey. I thought that might turn up. Ollie, do you want to take the difference between traditional and turnkey?
Yeah, so turnkey, a design and build route would be you go and speak to an occupier, and turnkey is saying we will cover the breadth of that project. So we will take on the full design of it. So stage 0, you go in and you'll take a brief. So a client might be moving into a 10,000 square foot. We'll sit down and say, how many workstations do you need? How many meeting rooms? What are your requirements for amenities? So it's literally from that initial stage, collecting the brief, you take full design responsibility of it and then take it all the way through to delivery. Whereas a more traditional route is you'd have a professional set of consultants on board. So you'd have an architect looking at the spatial design, M&E consultant doing that engineering design, and we would pick that up probably from a REBA stage 3 design and then take that through, cost it, and then deliver it. So turnkey is much more that D&B route to getting a project done. It encompasses everything.
Yeah, all the responsibility was us. I hope that answers that, Bonnie, for you. So starting on the journey towards inclusive design, workplace consultant, that's my role. And this section is really about where we start. And where we start isn't with getting creative and fun right from the off. We need to understand the people that are going to use that space. So when we come to a building, an empty shell that's been left by a developer and a client signs up for that space, we really need to understand who's going in that space, the culture of that company, what barriers they've currently got in their existing space, what challenges they've got from wellbeing and inclusivity in their existing spaces, and how can we make that space as good as it can be for that tenant that's going in there for that sort of 10, 15, 20-year period. And it kind of, our approach is to follow 3 simple stages that we've got there. We've got the understand phase, define, and then deliver. And that's really all about understanding who is in that space. Those 3 key stages of understanding the people that are in there, and how do we get to understand these people? How do we get to really get beneath the skin of the people that are going to be using that space? And this is traditional workplace consultancy element. So before we've got creative, it's really understanding things through employee surveys, leadership and departmental workshops, other tools and workplace assessment tools to really get under the skin of those people and the staff that are going in there. And it's only then when we can start to turn that into what you guys would essentially associate a space plan, looking at how that internal fit out could then be worked and mapped out in that shell of the building that we've got, taking all those elements on board. And then essentially once that's in place, then we get into the full design process of understanding the look and feel and how things shape in that space. And then the other more important element of it is the sort of design and deliver phase, which is where we then support people on that transition, because what we do, whether we like it or not, is we create change. So often the life cycle of a building or a workplace is around 20 to 25 years. And a lot a lot changes in those 20 years. So if you think our typical client has been in their existing space for 20 years, we come along and create something that looks and feels very, very different to what they're used to. We then have to support that change and how we're going to ensure those people can deliver and be productive in that new space as possible. So 20 years is a long time to map that out, and the growth and the rate of change is increasing exponentially. So the longer people leave that change in workplace environment, the bigger the challenge is to try and support that change. And if we think 20 years ago, I think it's around 20 years ago today that the iPhone came out. So a lot has changed in our workplaces, in the tools we use, how we use them, the environments we use them. If you'd have said 20 years ago, we're going to put some collaborative sofas into that workplace, you'd have probably got laughed at, whereas today it's now almost a staple of these are standard things we need to put in to support people in creating good working environments. So underpinning our design, and we're now getting into sort of the more important element for you guys when we're talking about design, and this is really just underpinning how we use psychology and some of the elements around psychology. We have a workplace psychologist that works with us, but taking some of those understanding to make sure we can get the best out of a physical environment. And we use the term flourishing, which is a key concept in allowing people to flourish in the workplace. And you can read through this, but essentially it means we're taking all of the things that can directly influence the day-to-day usability of a space, things like layout, like lighting, social connection, the access to different work settings, all of these things that impact well-being are considered when we design the initial concepts. So there's things that we will have learned through the DE&I workshops with clients that we can incorporate into design from a standout point of view, but there's also some flourishing essentials that we kind of design into floor plates and designs as a standard process. And this is, again, same building that we're looking at. This is a client that we worked with not last year, just taking those principles on. So some of the things that we're talking about in terms of having specific quiet zones. So when we talk about inclusivity, so the neurodiverse element in the workplace that we have to cater for today, noise and light are probably the two biggest factors that influence neurodiversity. So having a range of work settings to cater for those. So some of you on the call might like it a little bit quieter. And absolutely loved working from home during lockdown. When we come back into the office, it's a little bit louder than we thought and hoped it was going to be, and therefore struggle a little bit. So we need to cater for that and create areas where people can go. So hence quiet zones. We've got larger social areas for those collaboration and accidental meetings. And I think you all know what we're talking about. There's water cooler moments that I think have been talked about. But then we've also got to talk about the positioning of the desks. So there is, for reason here, desks along this perimeter where natural light is at its peak. So for those of you that like nice light bright areas, key area for people here, those that prefer a more darker environment, there are other areas that we cater for across the building as well. So applying those principles into the initial design plans. And lighting, like I said, lighting important. We analyse sun path analysis, so we know which buildings are going to get, which facades are going to get more daylight or natural daylight, like I said, across the front here, and which are going to be a little bit darker. So we can map out and utilise that information to create various different work settings in different areas across the building to suit those kind of neurodiverse requirements and make it a little bit more inclusive people, giving people a lot more choice, I think, is fundamental when it comes to the design elements. Just to touch on really brief case study. So when we wrap that workplace consultants and piece all together, Cambridge University Precedent Assessment came to us originally 43,000 square foot after COVID, said that's far too much space for us, we don't need that. But we don't know how much space we need and we don't know what we need to put into it. And from the output there, you can see we did sort of full discovery as to who they are, what they do, how do they do it, how are they going to work going forward. We looked at their commuter impact. So if they moved locations, what was the impact on staff? What was their commute time and distance they were potentially having to travel when we looked at these various different locations, and essentially came up with a footprint that said actually they need somewhere in the region of 23,000 square foot instead of the 48,000 square foot. That all came to fruition, and you can see some of the images there. A very open, bright, collaborative environment because of what they do. And we worked through the change management, putting in a lone change champion and change management program to support people on that journey. Because again, very different office from where they were 10, 15 years ago. So that was workplace consultancy in a nutshell. Any questions on that before we hand over to Sophie and the social values segment? No? Excellent. Sophie, over to you.
Cool. So hi everyone. As I mentioned earlier, my name's Sophie and I'm the social value coordinator for Overbury. Next slide. So this is just an overview of what we've been doing as a business. So we are working with a lot of charities. As you can see, we do a charity music night, which we've just done in Cambridge for the last 2 years now.
First one was last year, but we'll be back in October.
Back this year. So that's like a really great event where you can come along, buy a ticket, and we put on just a big kind of concert really, which has got staff members, subcontractors, clients, everybody gets together, and we put on music and there's food and drinks, and it's a really great night, and it's always for charity. So last year we supported Molly's Ollies, which is a really great charity there. We do the walks, sponsored walks, and Mental Health World Cup as well every year. So that's kind of group stuff that people that work at Overbury can get involved with. And again, as you can see on this side, we've got food banks on site, bake sales, all different types of fundraising, basically. Next one. So in terms of inclusion then, so we did work with the Change 100 programme, which is the Leonard Cheshire charity. And this is to basically give people that have different neurodiversity a chance to kind of get work experience for 100 days. So we had Caitlin with us who worked with us for 100 days, and she had a really, really amazing experience. And basically they provide different people each time to come out and do whatever it is, whether that's design, estimating, project management, but they get to have a really, really good insight into the construction industry. We also work with our foundationers. So the foundation programme is basically our apprentice programme. So the apprentices come on and they work with us for 4 years. And within that 4 years, they get a normal job, normal wage, but they also get to complete a degree, which Overbury fund and pay for as well. So that's a really great scheme that we are currently doing. This is how we measure our social value. So we use Social Value Portal. All of our data we collect on our projects, we then turn it into kind of different themes, outcomes and measures. We put it into the portal. And at the end of the project, we can create a report that tells us how much social value we have generated on that job. It's all externally verified. So Social Value Portal use external people to come and check and audit everything we put in there so that you can't make anything up, you can't lie on the Social Value Portal. So, you know, it's all verified. The social value work that we do is exactly what we say we do. Okay, so this is for the project that we've been speaking about just now called ARM. So this is more of a overview of what it is like to have social value on a project rather than just company stuff. So across the job, we wanted to try and do something every few months to enhance the either community aspect or diversity aspect on the project here, or charity aspect. So as you can see on a few different months, for example, Black History Month, Pakistan Independence Day and Partition Remembrance Day, and I think the Romanian Independence Day as well. We got in different catering vans, so all these people, all these different caterers were owned by diverse owned businesses, and they came to site and create some dishes for us. It was really nice, and that went out to all the subcontractors and the staff working on the projects. We also have got our psychologist from All Tomorrow's Therapies, and she comes out to site and does different workshops with the subcontractors. So, for example, Suicide Awareness Week, we did a workshop with them on that, and then she also provides one-to-one therapy sessions for people on the project. Chinese New Year, we had a great celebration for Chinese New Year. So we obviously had an amazing buffet, but we also had one of my colleagues, Jessica, so she taught us how to do calligraphy and taught us how to write like Happy New Year and the Year of the Horse, and we did Chinese calligraphy, and that was so fun. I think, did you guys get to do that?
I certainly did it, yeah.
So we did it in the office and also here on site, and it was just a great way to kind of break up people's day and actually go and do something a bit different, and then they got to take it home and, you know, show their families how good they did. And then there's different charities here that we've worked with. So Cambridge Civilians, they're a charity that help ex-offenders who are experiencing homelessness. So a lot of people will come out of the prison system and end up homeless. So Cambridge Civilians are a great charity that give them a place to stay. However, because they are a charity, they don't have much money to kind of make that space a home. I guess they have to use all of their funds in decorating and things like that. So we went in there and did a bit of a survey of, you know, like the flooring, the kitchen, the communal room where they all watch TV, and we went in there and did some, like a miniature fit out, I guess. So we replaced the carpets, we plastered all the walls, decorated all the walls, got some new furniture in there for them, and that's something that we quite like to do on a lot of projects, is find a charity and go in and do what we're good at on a miniature scale for free, which is obviously really appreciated by the charities. Rowan, there you can see those hard hats that have been decorated. So Rowan are a Cambridge-based charity that work with adults that have learning difficulties, but they get to kind of go to Rowan and do art classes, and it helps them to regulate and express themselves via the medium of art. So we commissioned them to make us these hard hats that are all kind of nature themed, and they're now hung up on the walls in the project office, and it gives such a nice burst of like colour and joy, and it makes people ask questions like, what are those? And then you get to talk about the charity as well. So that's really nice. We've also got them commissioned on another project that we're doing in Cambridge at the moment to do some wall art for us, so I'm really excited to see that as well. As I already spoke about, you've got our charity music night, and also we do different collections on site. So most of the time when you come, there'll be either like an Easter egg collection or a food bank or clothing bank, or at Christmas we get toys and things for children. So there's always something going on site where we're collecting stuff to donate. I think that's kind of our overview of the project, but that's basically all the things that we spoke about in terms of the data that we track and things like that. It's like working with that charity, Cambridge Civilians, for example. It's like, how do you track the work that you're doing there? But it's all about volunteering hours and things like that. And then we would go onto the portal and say we've volunteered with them for 100 hours, and then you have to upload all the evidence of that as well. But the data is one thing, but for me, the main thing is the impact. We don't do it for the numbers. We don't do it just to say that we've made all this money and social value. We do it because we care about people and we actually want to help people. I know that the data is good because at least we've got these examples to show people like yourselves, to have that hard data for you to look at. But the reality is that it's people's lives, and hopefully we are doing our best and the greater good to improve people's lives. So the one thing that's missing on here for me on this project was working with schools or working with young people within Cambridge, and that's kind of where I'm hoping this call might take us, as a little bit of a connection to be able to work with young people going forward, as I don't really have a key connection in that respect in Cambridge, so I'd love to do more of that on our next project.
We do it elsewhere, don't we? In the Midlands,
so yeah.
It's just trying to find that.
Everywhere in the Midlands, I've kind of got all those connections, but our Cambridge team is quite a little bit more difficult. I don't know why. They're just like hard to get hold of, hard to kind of get the kids actually to site or to go out and do workshops in schools. But in Birmingham, I've got lots of different examples. If you would like me to send them over, different case studies of stuff we've done with young people and schools over this side.
I think it's getting those first ones off the ground, isn't it? Because once you see it, you can show people what's happened and sort of the good that's come out of it. You get a bit of a snowball effect.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is just some of the images. So we handed over phase 1 back to ARM a couple of weeks ago now. So this was the project that obviously has the connection that Sophie's just gone through from a social value plan. So just trying to see what's working alongside the guys on site with what we're trying to build into the communities as well. And then we have there's some case studies here of the work that we have done in Cambridge. I don't know whether you guys want to go through this or whether it'd be worth doing a Q&A now on some of the bits that you've done, and we can send this over after so you've got some of the stats and some of the images of the projects that we've completed.
Thank you. So maybe I think it's good at this point to just open up the floor, because I know there are lots of people who come here just want to hear your presentation and learn more. So questions for Overbury? Anyone? Tom Davis.
I've been to the ARM office a couple of times, very impressed. The sort of flexible range of options you have, and it's kind of real eye opener to me. Really, I mean, in the council we had up until COVID, like fixed desk computers and no video conferencing, and but now you have this range of options and different spaces, and I mean, I suppose you just have to be very flexible in the way that you arrange the units and the walls, and so that you can change again. It seems to be a very dynamic environment.
But some of that, Tom, as well, is how do you get people back to the office? Businesses thrive on collaboration, and let's be honest, a lot of people have got really good setups at home. So it's got to be worth the commute into the office. So we've got to create spaces that, one, work for people, and two, they value coming into the space. It provides an environment where they can be productive, where we can collaborate properly. Because Teams is great, but it doesn't replicate sort of being together as a group, collaborating. Certainly for us, that's what we found, and for other companies too. So I think you're right, that choice, as we touched on, sort of that well-being, inclusive element. We're all different. We all like different things. So it's made our job really, really hard in trying to create spaces that ticks a lot of boxes for everyone. And that's what you're seeing at ARM, is that real plethora of choices and different types of work settings. So it's almost a case of, there's a space, it's got everything in it. You choose what space works for you today. And that might be different tomorrow or from yesterday, but it's down to you and empower you as an individual to make those choices.
I think ARM are quite lucky as well, because they've recently done some fit out projects in other areas in the UK, which they've been able to draw on. These spaces have worked. The private phone booths that they've put in Manchester, they've then taken across to Cambridge and implemented those. Whereas Cambridge University Press and Assessment, they hadn't done a fit out like that for quite some time in that Coventry office, and it was completely underutilised. So the workplace piece up front that Steve did was so, it was required to gather all of that and find out actually what is important, what will get people back into the office. Because if you give people what they want, they will come.
Thank you. Maxine Ross.
Yeah, that was one of my questions about the university press site. How did you manage to reduce the floor space down so much? Because it was almost halved, wasn't it, by the time you'd done your work?
Yeah. And they were very pleased we did, because it saved them a stack of rent. But what it comes down to, Maxine, is that office that they were in at 48,000 square foot, was all based on a time pre-pandemic when everyone had a desk and everyone was in 5 days a week. Whereas now they're not. And there was a huge cultural journey they had to go on to move away from, well, I like coming in and having my desk, but I also like the flexibility of being able to work from home 2 or 3 days a week. It didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense financially to be able to do that. We can't have 500 desks and we only use 250 of them at our peak time. We've got to reduce our footprint, and that's essentially where that came from. Footfall and working patterns through hybrid working had changed, and just being able to adjust our culture and say, actually, when you come in, there will be a desk for you, and the same will be tomorrow. It just might be a slightly different desk or the one next door to where you normally sit. The detachment from the desk enables that agility, and I think that agility is good, because once you get into that mindset of, if I need a desk, there'll be one, and it's just a desk rather than my desk. It was never my desk. There's always somebody, the company's desk, but I use it. Once you get away from that, you then start to open up, and the fact that certainly for sort of more managerial level, there'll be times when people come into the office, put their stuff on a desk, and then go and sit in meetings back to back all day. Yeah, that desk is out of action. No one else can use it. What a waste of time. And in Cambridge, average cost of a desk per year is probably somewhere in the region of about £8,500, £9,000 a year, when you include rent rates, hard and soft FM services. And then when you only use that 50% of the time, 40% of the time, that's significant cost that's going on heating, lighting, power and cooling these desks, but they're not being used. So that's really where it came from.
Thank you, Steve. Claire Gibbons.
I'm quite interested in the point at which you start to apply your thinking, because it seems part of what you're saying is that workplace design creates culture, but also you want to reflect culture in workplace design. The reason I'm thinking about this is because we're all about to experience profound change through local government reorganisation. And it's, for me, a question of, when we have identified our new estate that we're all to relocate into, at what point would we look to reorganise that, perhaps redesign it? Is it once that new culture and new organisation is established, or do you want to have a freshly designed workplace in order to create the culture that you want to see? So it's an interesting question, which I'm sure those that are in charge of local government reorganisation locally will be the ones to grapple with, but I'd be interested to have your reflections.
It's a really great question, Claire. And I think we come across all kind of organisations, some that know they need to change culture and use it as an opportunity, or the refurbishment to promote that culture. Others, it's more of a necessity that we, from a cost point of view, we can't afford to keep this building running this way. We've got to change, and it's almost a byproduct of that change. What I will say is the best time to address that culture or make amendments to it is when things look and feel different. Because over the course of a refurbishment relocation project, we naturally go and assume things are going to be different. They're going to be changed. We're more receptive to change. And when you can walk into a building and see physically things look and feel different, you will adapt and adopt that change far easier than you would if it was just, if we said to you guys in the office today, if we said, right, tomorrow we're all going to be agile working and you're not going to sit at the same desk every day, go do it. Within 3 weeks, you'd all be sat at the same desk exactly as you are now, doing the same thing as you've always done. There needs to be some kind of catalyst to embed change and make it absorb quicker and easier. And the refurbishment, or when things look and feel different, that's the best time to adopt that change. So I think it's a long-winded answer to your question. In the thing, it comes across from two angles, but what is clear is that whatever your route in, adopting a change at the same time as making some kind of refurbishment or change is the right time to do it.
And we've seen a lot of change management as well come off the back of a fit out. So it's communicating what the new space is going to be like, how you're going to move into it, and having that soft landing process so that people, when they arrive, they're not going, this is completely different with how we're working before. And again, that's something that Steve will manage and look after as that fit out starts to complete and people will start rolling over and start using the space. Is actually, getting staff on board with it. And that can start very early on in the process. We're speaking to someone at the moment that's saying, as soon as we start on site, we want to start getting staff round, get them excited, start talking about their transportation, how they will arrive at the new office, whereas other people will leave that slightly later in the process. But I think it depends as well. Different sectors will work in different ways, and some will be much more open to change. Others will have certain, processes that they have to follow, and they're a bit more, tied with how much they can navigate that. But we like to think as early as we can, start to get people involved and get them on board with it.
Take them on the journey, not do it to them. That's the biggest thing.
Thank you, Ollie. Next, we have Shahida Montgomery.
Hi, I'd be interested to hear what your experience is, if you've tried sort of allocation of affordable workspaces as part of a scheme like this. So, for example, looking at a certain percentage to be for startup businesses or locals from the area or smaller businesses working in that residential area. So yeah, if you've done anything like this, and how did you build that into the scheme?
In terms of smaller businesses taking commercial space, sorry.
Yeah, so what I have, I think this comes from because I'm looking at an office scheme, and we're trying to see how we can build into this the scheme at an early stage where we could try and build into the management strategy whereby they allow a certain floor space for local businesses as a community, as a way to give back to the community. If you have had any experience of something like that.
There's a number of companies that we've worked with where often I'm going to generically just say, okay, the ground floor is a kind of shared space for the community, and we'll keep our kind of separate commercial operations upstairs, and that's relatively easy to do in terms of from a security access control point of view. And those ground floor spaces, it could be cafe space, it could be kind of WeWork drop-in areas. We've done some work, I know Sophie, you're just going to mention one, but I know we've done work with charities that are very big on opening up their space for the community. Up in Newcastle, we did a large space where they've opened the ground floor for kind of almost like a cafe space where the community can come in and use the facilities if they need to, book them out, but the actual commercial operations is still upstairs, out the way, that kind of shared space downstairs. That's typically, I think, what we would come across in that scenario.
I think developers now as well are wanting to be a lot closer connected to the community. So there's some bits going on in Cambridge now where they're multi-use schemes. So you've got residential, commercial, nurseries going in, but all of the cafe areas, the gyms, they're open up to the communities as well. So they're not just tied down to the commercial users within the building. So I think as a whole scheme, developers are looking at that more. I don't know if as a office by office, I'm seeing that as much as what you're sort of suggesting there, Shahida.
Yeah, it's a mechanism whereby workspaces like the ones you're speaking of, where people can come in and use the spaces, is and when where you could work that into their scheme, where you could have certain allocations as affordable workspaces. So yeah, no, but thank you, thanks.
Thank you.
I think that would be led from the developer side of how much of their space they're allocating to, community use or amenities. They'll be looking at as an overview, whereas we'd get appointed to complete the works. We would. I don't think we've actually fed into something where we go, you need to utilise this for the community. Yeah.
Thank you, Ollie. So clearly, inclusive workspace design is a topic that is very interesting and is very engaging. We still have lots of questions, but we don't have enough time. So after this call, I'm going to have a separate chat with Overbury to see potential collaboration, inviting you to an Inclusive Design Festival, which is going to happen in Feb 27, and see whether we can invite you to give a talk to a wide audience. And Sophie, just to respond to your question about youth engagement, we have an award-winning youth engagement service. And as a starter for 10, we will be working with yourself on a public art project. And so I'm sure Steve and Ollie will keep you posted.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds great. And I think I saw some other bits people have put in the chat as well. So thank you everyone that's given me suggestions, and I'll look into those as well.
Thank you. So yeah, this is recorded. So please feel free to share the recording afterwards. It will be on our ICPG webpage. So just some news update from Heather. We will be having a 1 hour webinar on Wednesday, the 5th of August. The webinar is called Creating Places for Wellbeing Movement, Mind and Food webinar. It's 1 hour. Really good CPD, 4:30 to 5:30. So after work, just wind down and just listen to it. It's great. It's good for you. It's organized by Heather, and we will have Dr. Mark Drain, who's going to focus on healthy Greater Cambridge, Dr. Cleo Valentine, who's going to talk about mental health and architecture, and Hala more veg. She always says that so we can eat more veg. It's about food systems and well-being. She's so much fun. So hopefully you can all get the tickets from Eventbrite. It's £5 to £10. So hopefully you can join us. So thank you all to Overbury for your time. We've all learned so much from you, and let's see if we can collaborate further.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Nice
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.